Good morning. It is the 10th of August 2018, and today's video blog is about self-harm. I'm doing this video because it's quite often a topic people don't want to talk about, yet it's quite prevalent, and it's something that I find I'm dealing with quite a lot with clients, mainly teenagers. And some young adults as well. I have had various clients suffering with this, so I really wanted to kind of break down some barriers and have some awareness and understanding if you're not aware of self-harm, or if you maybe do self-harm yourself and you want to reach out for help and get some support. So this is basically just a little bit of information to understand why people self-harm and know how to help if you know someone that's self-harming, and where to get support, really. So a little bit of a true or false session here. So see if you can answer these questions. So number one, self-harm is always a suicidal act. Do you think that's true, or do you think it's false? So self-harm is always a suicidal act. It's actually false. Although people do die from self-harm, these instances are accidental. In general, people who self-harm do not want to die. In fact, self-injury can be a way of coping, of regaining control in order to continue living. So it's very, very different from suicide. Number two, people who self-harm are crazy. True or false? What do you think? It's false. So people who self-harm are often dealing with trauma, and it's not mental health problems usually. As with everything, there are exceptions, but usually people are just trying to cope with problems, and it's a way of coping. It's not the most positive way of coping, but it's a form of coping that person has found, and it can be very similar to drug addiction and alcohol addiction, because it numbs the pain. So it's a coping strategy, but obviously an unhealthy coping strategy. So that's something that I usually help clients with if they're self-harming, try and give them other strategies to help with that, and to be able to talk, which is the most important thing. It usually means that they don't have a let out and they're not able to talk. Anyway, number three, injuring yourself is attention seeking. Is that true or false? I hear this a lot. A lot of people say that, and a lot of I went on a suicide and self-harm course, and actually a professional that was on the course actually said that about self-harm, that it was attention seeking. And I know I've been on a course before about it, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely not about it's not about attention seeking at all. So a lot of people think that if you hurt yourself, you are seeking attention, but actually generally people who self-harm try to keep it from others, and they try to hide it. They hide what they're doing rather than draw attention to it. Some people feel ashamed and scared. Some people do self-harm because they feel nobody cares. But seeking care is not seeking attention. That's different. It's quite a different thing. Quite often people that self-harm will avoid going swimming, will avoid wearing short tops, that kind of thing. So that can be a bit of a clue that there might be some scarring that they're wanting to hide. Number four, self-harm is addictive. Is that true or false? It is true. The release of the endorphins can easily become addictive, as the individual wants more of that tranquilizing effect, and a natural high is gained from cutting. So the sense of physical pain deflecting from the emotional one is also powerfully addictive. A third type of dependency may arise from the emotional and caring responses of others to the person when they self-harm, but that's quite rare. As I said before, it's much more about a secretive thing. It's usually done in private. It's usually done somewhere where nobody can know about it. So yeah, it's not attention seeking in that sense. So self-harm or self-injury describes a wide range of things people deliberately do to themselves, and that can appear to be harmful, but usually they don't try to kill themselves. So self-harm is not usually a failed suicide attempt. Self-harm is when someone deliberately hurts or injures themselves. So there's different forms of self-harm. I mean, the most prevalent and the most common that you hear about is cutting. But there can be other types. So there can be taking overdoses of tablets or medicines, but they're obviously not intending to kill themselves, they're just enough to cause harm, basically. Punching yourself, throwing your body against something, pulling hair or eyelashes, scratching, picking or tearing at skin, causing sores and scarring, inhaling or sniffing harmful substances, swallowing things that are inedible, inserting objects into one's body, or burning. So all of those are different forms of self-harm. So why do people self-harm? So as I mentioned earlier, it's a coping strategy. It's for feelings or a state of mind. It's trying to relieve those feelings, get those feelings and thoughts to go away, basically, is what self-harm is about. So this is learnt, and people describe that they feel calmer, in control, and a relief and a release after they've self-harmed. So it has a positive effect to them when they do it. Sometimes people hurt themselves because they want to punish themselves. It might be out of anger, fear, or a lack of confidence. It is a distraction from an emotional pain, and that's really key here. The physical pain feels better than what's going on inside their heads. Feeling desperate about a problem and they don't know where to turn for help. They feel trapped, and self-injury makes them feel like they're in control. It helps them to release tension, and feelings of guilt and shame become unbearable, so they're punishing themselves. Trauma or abuse, numbness or deadness, and a feeling of being detached from the world and their bodies, cutting themselves makes them feel alive again, that they feel like they're here. So that's kind of a bit of how to understand why people self-harm, what that is about, really. It can come from all sorts of things. It can come from abuse, sexual, emotional or physical abuse. It can come from depression, neglect, loss or separation, parental mental health problems. So being around parents with mental health problems, parental or their own substance misuse, school problems, relationship difficulties. So that, as you can see, there can be any number of reasons why people start to self-harm. So there's this vicious cycle that goes on with self-harm. So there's an overwhelming emotions, that feeling of being unable to cope, and then a need for relief from that. Then they self-harm. After that, they get the euphoric high and the relief from the cutting or whatever self-harm they use. And then they feel secrecy, shame, stress because of what they've done. They often feel guilty about the fact that they've self-harmed. And then the overwhelming emotions come again, and so it goes on. So we get this cycle of self-harm that keeps going. And as I mentioned earlier, that does sound similar to addiction in terms of alcoholism or drug addiction, that it's very difficult to break that cycle. And the longer it's been going on, the harder it is to break. And to just stop can be very, very hard. So making people safe so that they can self-harm without being in harm's way is a way of kind of trying to reduce the self-harm and giving other strategies. It is something that I can help with. I work with a lot of clients, as I say, giving various different tools to help with that, give different coping strategies, and try and alleviate the self-harm. Okay, so if you want to know more, please do contact me, and I hope you found this video blog helpful. Okay, thank you. Bye.